What's up, guys? This is Mason with the Duelist 101 podcast. We just wanted to do a quick follow up with our, podcast that will be up pretty soon on this fabulous Tuesday. Um, we wanted to go over the Melodious deck. So we talked kind of all over the place about Melodious and kind of what they do, but I figured it would be best to kind of review, get a better idea in a little bit more linear fashion. So, Melodious is a deck that, like mentioned in the podcast, is featured in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 anime, used by Zuzu Boyle. They're all music themed, like Fortissimo, first movement solo, ostinato, score, which is like the sheet music, soprano, tam tam. I mean, that's more of a percussion-ish kind of thing. But point being, they all have these different musical themes. The boss monsters, generally speaking, um, are named after the composers in music. So, for example, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart turns into Mozarta. Oh goodness, Chopin. I think it's Francis Chopin is Chopina. So a lot of different things going on with that. They, generally speaking, are a beatdown strategy, which you can kind of tell by how I've designed this particular deck list. I will go ahead and say this by no means is what I would consider top tier Melodious deck. To be honest with you, I will probably do an update where I've gotten some more time to kind of refine what this deck does in the best possible way, but a lot of the core components are definitely here. So let's just go through this card by card. We'll be able to kind of think through it that way. So of course there's Mozart. This is generally speaking probably one of the better boss monsters that you can have. Her idea is that you can special summon one light fairy type monster from your hand, which is incredibly powerful, right? Every single monster in here is a light fairy type, every single one. And so, excuse me, being able to get multiple monsters onto the field, like say Tam Tam, right? Then you can add a polymerization from deck to hand, which is also an important thing with this deck. They are a fusion style deck primarily. We have some link ability, but they're pretty xenophobic, if you will. They're very exclusive group. So we've got that Chopina, the Melodious Maestra. She is what enables a little bit of the recyclability in the deck, and that is by targeting one light fairy type monster in your grave, add it to your hand. So not too bad, and the restriction isn't too bad. It says you cannot activate non-light monster effects during the turn you activate this effect. Not really that big of a deal. You are rarely, if ever, going to have to bother with that kind of playing around. Then there's Elegy. Special summon Melodious monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effect. That is, even if this card is normal summon, it's a passive effect. It's not one that you have to like turn on. It's just there. Then if this card was special summon all fairy type monsters you control, gain 300 attack. That is a little bit negligible of an ability, but the really important thing is the special summon Melodious monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects. That will put a lot of different decks. They will have a very difficult time outing your board, provided they don't have a Dark Ruler no more or a massive monster negate. So then we have Aria. While the special summon card is on the field, Melodious monsters you control cannot be targeted by card effects or destroyed by battle. This is important because that finishes out the rest of the lock. Okay, and you'll get to see a little bit of that whenever we get into our dual replays. But whenever these two special summoned cards are on the field, your opponents cannot be targeted, cannot be destroyed by card effect or battle. So very, very powerful. That means the only way that you can get into the lock is by non-targeting removal, such as Dingirso. Dingirsu from the Orchest strategy. Whenever he's special summoned, whenever he's summoned, he can non-target send a card from field to grave. So that is one example of how to out this. This is Solo, the Melodious Songstress. Not really a bad card, but definitely kind of delineates why this is preferably a going second style. If your opponent controls monster and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one Melodious monster from your deck except this card. So to be honest, this is your only real kind of searcher, if you will, if any kind of searcher. So it's not terribly great. But say if you're playing like Duel Links or something, being able to ram this card into a monster you're having trouble getting out in order to bring out this one, because even when you crash into somebody and this monster gets destroyed, you then get to special summon any one of these Melodious monsters that you need. And so my pick is usually Mozarta. But whenever you're playing the game at this point in time, you really don't use that a whole lot. But it is nice to have a special summon ability and a really good normal summon to have. This is Cannon. You can special summon her from the hand. You can target one Melodious monster you control, change its battle position. Not that useful of an effect, generally speaking. But it is something you can special summon from the hand, which is important when you talk about our primary setup play. Then you have Soprano. This is probably one of your most powerful level 4s. Basically, what you can do is you can, whenever this card's on the field, you can fusion summon without using polymerization using this card and other cards you control. So if you have any of these other Melodious monsters on the field, boom, you have a way to do that. Then, like I said before, this is a beatdown strategy. That's why we feature the card Honest. They're all light monsters. You can always use it. We have Tam Tam. This is a newer pick. Before, I wasn't playing it a lot, but I realized it can be pretty powerful on being able to go a little bit further than your original play of just setting up the lock and being done. If you can special summon this card while you already control a Melodious monster, then you can fusion summon out the gate. This is another monster that is not a once per turn special summon, which is insane because you can just recycle this and boost pretty much all your fairy type monsters up 1,000 points potentially. You're rarely going to get in a position where you have all three of those on the field, but if 2 is pretty possible. Then we have Score. You can send this card from hand to grave, change your opponent's monster's attack and defense to 0 until the end of this turn. Pretty powerful effect in dealing with a lot of different things. Then we get into our spells. We have Ostinato. If you control no monsters, you can fusion summon one Melodious fusion monster from your extra deck using 2 monsters from hand or deck. So you can fusion summon from deck. Pretty powerful. But the problem is that this card is really and truly only useful on your first turn. Which is extremely frustrating when you're trying to get this just perfect setup. Polymerization, fusion summon. First movement solo, also usually only useful during your first turn, but it can be a very powerful card in that you can bring out Soprano, you can bring out Aria if that's your only option, or any of these other level 4s that you need at the moment. You can bring those up. We do have a couple Dark Ruler. Like I said, this is not a super polished deck list, and I will fully admit that. I know, but because otherwise I would really like to have 3 in here, but I'm trying to figure out the ratio of monsters primarily. But you would probably have 3. This is probably a going second kind of style, so this is kind of what you want to settle with. Pot of Avarice, you end up putting a pretty decent amount of monsters in the grave by the end of the game, and so it's extremely useful to have this kind of card. MST, Mystical Space Typhoon, target a spell trap, take it out. So not too bad. Called by the Grave. There is an extremely important play that we have with Called by the Grave, and so what we are always going to try to do with that is be able to make sure we don't get ashed, make sure we don't get this, that, and the other. Extremely important. Fortissimo, this is actually another polymerization if you need it. It's got a pretty significant attack boost. You can target one Melodious monster you control, gains 800 attack until your next standby phase. So not till just the end of the turn, goes through until the end of your opponent's turn as well, which is extremely useful in my opinion. But what's really good is you can send this card to the graveyard, fusion summon one Melodious fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control as fusion materials. So say you've already used Poly or you've already used Ostinato and you need some way to keep the game moving a little bit. And you're able to special summon, say, Sonata or Cannon. In either of those situations, you can lay this card down. Boom, you're able to power up into another Melodious monster that may just fit the bill a little bit better. Then we have Solemn. I would really like 3 of these, but like I said, this list is not nearly as polished as I would like it to be. But for right now, it handles the basic negate. So then we get into the extra deck here. We've got Bloom Prima, the Melodious Choir. This thing kills on Duel Links. But in playing the tabletop game, it's not as effective. It can be. It kind of serves as a, it's Fright for like Wolf or something, where it can attack multiple times. But for this one, this can attack 2 times during each battle phase, which is pretty intense. And then what's really nice is it helps with the recyclability a little bit. It says if this fusion and summon card is sent to the grave, you can target one Melodious monster in your grave, add it to your hand. So kind of helpful. Then we have Schuberta, based off Franz Schubert. So another composer, therefore another maestra, right? Maestras, they're the composers. I'm sorry, they're the composers. But anyway, this works as an instant DD Crow for up to 3 cards in your opponent's grave. So if you know that your opponent has a primary, like if you're playing Lightsworn, let's say, and they're trying to trigger some effects, but you have this on the field already, you can go ahead and knock that out, keep them from really extending their plays. This one is your win condition. Bloom Diva, the Melodious Choir, by far the best card in this deck. It says cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Also, you take no battle damage from attacks involving this card. If this card battles a special summon monster after damage calc, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to the difference between you and the original attack of that opponent's monster and this card. And if you do, destroy that opponent's monster. That will out so many of the problem cards that you have to deal with. So many. And based on its inherent protection, it's extremely powerful. Then we have a couple links here. I've got Borreload, Boral Sword, Appaloosa. To be honest, at one point I was working on setting up a potential Appaloosa board right out the gate, but it's this deck does not swarm the field extremely well. So it's frustrating, but it's just part of it. But whenever you get into later parts of the game, you might end up with 4 and 5 monsters in the field. And in that case, it's pretty good to go into either of the Borals. This is a purely light deck, so we have Hipposhyn again. This is the Melodious link, Bloom Harmonist, the Melodious Composer, which obnoxiously is not counted as a Melodious Maestro, which is just really annoying. Part of it, I guess. But this card's Link Summon. You can discard 1 card, special summon 2 Melodious monsters with different levels from deck to zones. This card points to in defense position. You cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate this effect except Melodious monsters. So, and something that's kind of nice, a nice little passive effect. If a Melodious monster this card points to attacks, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. So very powerful in that respect. We do have Verte Anaconda. We play Polymerization, of course, and I've thought about playing Flash Fusion. That's why this stuff is down here. It's things that I've thought about putting in, but I'm just not fully convinced yet. But Fusion Summon 1 fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters you control as fusion material, destroy it during the end phase. So if you're able to get into cards like Mozart and Chopina and go like accelerate directly into Bloom Diva or Bloom Prima. They're both extremely useful that way. So that's why we have Verte in here. Herald of Mirage Lights, really nice for being able to take care of spawn trap cards. Generally speaking, that tends to be the weakness of the strategy, is dealing, as far as inherent removal, dealing with sorry, my dog's playing in the background. Dealing with spells and traps. Like, I know it's not that people are out here playing Mirror Force anymore, but dealing with cards that encourage like mass removal, like Regeki, or say a Monster Reborn even. It's really nice to have an inherent negate by way of this card. So that's kind of the overall deck list. Here's a couple test hands just to show you what it can do. So this is a pretty solid setup. I mean, Melodious is just not super strong with our first turn setup, so that's okay. But now, so we have a Melodious monster and a Melodious Maestra. So every single fusion is available to us if we want it. So we are going to go ahead and go into that right here. We'll throw her in defense position just to avoid some of these other issues. And so right here, we have an inherent monster removal provided. I mean, these monsters, whatever monsters your opponent might set up, attack into it. Because, funny enough, even while it's in defense position, it can still trigger its effects. We've got a negate for a summon or a spell trap card, and then a spell trap removal. So not bad, not bad. So this isn't bad either. So we have Ostinato open that up. So we're going to go. The thing is, you really do want to be going straight into. You want to be going straight into Bloom Diva, the Melodious Choir, if you want to win with this deck. Now you can normal summon her, and just for an example, I know we already fusion summoned her out, but let's just say we want to go into Bloom Diva, the Melodious Choir. We can trigger her effect, discard a card, so we're going to get rid of that first movement solo. It's not something we desperately need. We're going to special summon Elegy and Aria. Boom. All right, they're both in defense mode, and so, like I said, your cards cannot be destroyed by card effects, and your cards cannot be targeted by card effects or destroyed by battle. Any of these Melodious monsters, and just about all your monsters that you're actually going to put on the field are Melodious. So this is an extremely helpful tool. But let's say, you know, you're ready to kind of move forward. You can say the thing is your opponent wants to target you with card effects, but they don't have any of those cards that are mass destruction. We're going to get rid of those two cards, and boom, now we have our DD Crow, and we have a prevention for being targeted by card effects and destroyed by battle. So this isn't a bad setup. We can go ahead and bluff with that if you so choose. You don't have to lay down all the cards in your hand. Not a big deal at all. And just for kicks, let's see what this next card is. So not bad either. And so if we get to this point, so now we've got a Melodious Maestra and a Melodious card. We can trigger that effect, send it, boom, 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 boom. Now here's what's funny. Just a little annoying thing with Melodious specifically. Aria prevents targeting by card effects. Fortissimo targets one Melodious monster you control in order to gain 800 attack. Extremely frustrating, super annoying, but very much a part of it. So I will go as fast as I can with these replays here. I know I have a lot, so sorry. For the record, keep an eye out for Drytron. It's real. It's real. All right. Here we go. Just a couple of replays. Zach and I decided to do a match style kind of thing against Cubic. So I think he made us go first in most of these, which was extremely frustrating. But you can see we got our 2 Melodious monsters, going to our link, special summoning 2, and going from there. And we are going to get directly into preventing targeting and preventing the ability to be destroyed by card effect. He's going to lay down desires, and this is the frustrating thing about Zach. He's working on making Cubics just as competitively viable as possible. But the problem with that is that, I mean, it's difficult with Cubics. But with Mystic Mind, that is helping him out a lot. So in this case, I can't do anything because if I put any cards on the field, then I am going to end up, only putting myself in a worse position. And so here, Zach has decided to attack into my card. It can't be destroyed by battle, and I don't take effect or battle damage. So his monster's going to deal effect damage at the end of the turn. Not a big deal, and more bricks. That's the thing with the Melodious deck. It does brick a lot. Like, you set up your first turn, and as good as you feel, all you're doing is stalling until you can find cards that you need. So, just an important thing that you need to know about. Let's see here. All right, he's going to bring out Summoner Monk, trigger its effect to bring out another level 4, brings out Duza, adds another Cubic card to hand. I think he is trying to work his way, at least eventually, to having 3 Cubic cards in hand so he can get this guy out. But until then, Triple Burst can be on the field, making sure he still has less monsters than me. Extremely frustrating. You keep going. I draw kind of dead again. Now, what I do here is kind of funny because, one, I made sure I had 1 monster on the field at the same time he did. And then I think in this game I overplay it. So I get rid of some of the problem cards. Oh, here we go. So so by discarding Honest, I was able to jump over his guy and win that game. Pretty quick deal, but showcased a little bit of the strength, a little bit of the weakness. One, really nice being able to DD Crow your opponent instantly, being able to get rid of some of these problem cards. Really big problem. They brick. After that first turn setup, there's no guarantee. And then we're going to get into this one right here. Maybe. Okay, cool. We're going to swap over. We've got the Melodious set. So this time we get to go second. That's kind of what we prefer, if we can help it. But Zach ends up putting a pretty solid board. You should know, one, he's about to deal effect damage to us. We're about to take 3,000. But this card right here prevents Cubic cards from taking battle damage, which gets real important later on. And so he's going to trigger Speed Burst Dragon. Whenever he takes effect damage, he gets to deal that to me. So he is about to, on his first turn, without me ever playing the game, deliver 6,000 points of effect damage. So if I'm going to win, I got to do it now. He takes that. He gains 1,500. He's safe. Now, this isn't a bad setup at all. To be honest, we probably should try to open up with first movement solo and go from there. But let's see how we decide to play it. So by playing Dark Ruler No More, the intent was to make sure that we'd be able to take out Crimson Nova. Crimson Nova is unaffected by cards whose original attack is under 3,000. So we start out with that first movement solo. Nice. Go into Bloom Diva. I know that Zach doesn't play a lot of hand traps, so I felt pretty confident going into that. And now we are working into Bloom Prima because she gets to attack twice. I thought this would give me a solid advantage moving into the following turns. But Zach had a kind of out in that I had completely blanked on the fact that I played Dark Ruler. That prevents your opponent from taking battle damage that turn. So I couldn't win it then. But so Zach gets to use his not once per turn search for Cubic cards, brings out Duza, and he is still allowed to keep himself from dying. by way of unification. So he can do this up to 3 times, basically, which is extremely frustrating for me. And now he throws down the Mystic Mine, definitely keeping me from doing anything until he gets the cards that he wants. So now we're just staring at each other for a little bit. And this dude draws Mystic Mine more than any other guy on this planet. It's so annoying. This is where I overplay it, I'm pretty sure. Because I just say, yeah, I keep myself from being able to attack into him and have a solid chance at winning the game right there. But yeah, we'll get over it. So we decide to take that. He's going to reload, see what he ends up with. He's trying real hard to end up with at least 3 Crimson Novas in hand. Ends up with a pretty bad hand, not going to lie. We're going to poly, but we don't have any way to get rid of this card right here. And so there's just not anything that we're going to be able to do until then. So he's going to do that. And now he's going to put a cubic counter on this card, keeping us from triggering our effects and allowing him to walk over us. So let's see here. So guys, hope you appreciated this video. Hope it was helpful. And of course, feel free to let us know if you have any thoughts or ideas for what to do with Melodious. Is there any way to make this thing competent? So just let us know, and we will see you guys next time.